5 years after the Civil War, in 1881 the city of Birmingham, Alabama, was founded. Due to the crumbling infrastructure from the Civil War, and the boom in the Industrial Revolution, came the need for tons of pig iron to build and repair buildings and vehicles. Colonel James Withers Sloss began to build Sloss furnaces. From 1882 to 1971, Birmingham Sloss Furnaces transformed coal and ore from surrounding area into the hard steel that would pave the way for the Industrial Revolution. From skyscrapers in New York to automobiles being built in Detroit, the United States came to rely on Birmingham and Sloss Furnaces for providing materials needed to produce thousands of steel products. Birmingham grew to a metropolis almost overnight, earning it the nickname of the Magic City. With all major progress in the Industrial Revolution, the price was paid in the deaths and injuries of workers. A year later, the company opened its doors to hundreds of employees. Jobs on blast furnaces were extremely dangerous, and many workers started falling to their deaths in the furnaces. By the early 1900s, conditions had worsened with a cruel foreman, James "Slag" Wormwood, who took dangerous risks to increase production. Slag was foreman of the graveyard shift, the period between sunset and sunrise, where a skeleton crew of nearly 150 workers toiled to keep the furnace fed. During the stifling summer months, temperatures throughout the plant would reach more than 120 degrees. Lack of sleep, the heat, and low visibility made working the furnace literally a living hell, and only the poorest of workers, desperate for employment, would work it. These workers, mostly recently arrived immigrants and African Americans, were forced to live in cramped housing located on the furnace site, and were on call to work 24 hours a day with no concern from the company about the well-being of the workers. They were thought to be expendable. To impress his supervisors by increasing production, Slag would make his workers take dangerous risks, forcing them to speed up production. During his time as foreman, 47 workers lost their lives, 10 times more than any other shift in the history of Sloss Furnace. Countless others lost their ability to work due to accidents, mishaps, and even a recorded explosion in the small blowing engine house in 1888 that left 6 workers severely burnt and blind. There were no breaks, there were no holidays. The furnace running was the only concern for the company, and its constant hunger for more and more coal. Workers were not compensated for their injuries, or the widows compensated for the deaths of their husbands. In October of 1906, James "Slag" Wormwood supposedly lost his footing at the top of the highest blast furnace, known as Big Alice, and plummeted into a pool of melted iron ore. His body melted instantly. There are some rumors that the workers pushed Slag to his death, but this has never been proven. It was reported that Slag must have become dizzy from the methane gas created by the furnace and lost his balance, but Slag had never set foot on top of a furnace during his years of employment. This added to the rumors of Slag being murdered by the employees that he had tortured in the years that he was the foreman. No workers were ever brought to trial. Sloss Industries soon discontinued the graveyard shift, citing numerous reports of accidents and strange incidents that decreased steel production. The legend of Slag grew each year after his disappearance. Workers complained of an unnatural presence they increasingly encountered throughout the worksite. A night watchman in 1926 sustained injuries after being pushed from behind and told angrily by a deep voice to get back to work. The man, upon searching the grounds, could find no sign of any other person. In 1947, 3 supervisors turned up missing. Found unconscious and locked in the small boiler room in the southeastern part of the plant, none of the 3 could explain exactly what happened to them. All agreed they were approached by a man whose skin appeared badly burned and who angrily shouted at them to push some steel. Probably the most horrifying tale occurred in 1971, when the night before the plant closed, Samuel Blumenthal, the Sloss night watchman, who was nostalgically taking a last look about, found himself face to face with the most frightening thing he had ever seen. He described it simply as evil, a half-man, half-demon, who tried to push him up the stairs. When Blumenthal refused, the creature began to beat him mercilessly with his fists. Upon examination by Dr. Jack Barlow, Blumenthal was found covered with intense fist-shaped burns. He died before ever returning to Sloss. There have been more than 100 reports of suspected paranormal activity at Sloss Furnaces recorded in Birmingham police records. From minor incidents such as steam whistles apparently blowing by themselves, to major sightings and physical assault. It is interesting to note that the majority of these reports happen in the months of September and October at night, during the old graveyard shift. Some merely dismiss the occurrences as Halloween hoaxes. Others believe it is the angry spirit of the sadistic foreman, Slag. Although Sloss Furnace closed in 1971, the plant still stands and is open for tours. In 1988, a study was conducted of Sloss Furnaces by the Center for Paranormal Events. While no events out of the ordinary occurred during the study, two psychics claimed that due to the violent disregard for loss of life, Sloss Furnaces should be considered a location rife with restless souls. No paranormal activity was found, but the investigation took place in May and the disturbances usually take place in October. In 2002, a skeptical paranormal team, a local paranormal activity team, investigated the site. They left frazzled and convinced that Sloss was haunted. The video from their investigation has been posted online. Another investigation was held in 2003 by the Alabama Foundation for Paranormal Research, who quoted that, "There is no doubt Sloss is a hotspot for paranormal activity. During our investigations we pulled data that confirms through our scientific methods and approach that energies are present that cannot be explained." They stated, "Sloss is one of the most paranormally active places our team has investigated." On October 4 of 2003, an attack happened to one of the former crew members that had worked at Sloss Furnace for quite a few years before its closure, was assisting with the paranormal investigation. Joshua Thomas, who had worked at Sloss for many years, suddenly caught fire after seeing a strange shape. He suffered burns up and down his body and was taken to the hospital. He has never been able to recall what happened that night. This attack was almost on the exact 32nd anniversary of the Samuel Blumenthal, the former night watchman's unexplained burn attack. In 2005, two psychic investigators from the TV show Airline investigated Sloss Furnaces. In the middle of the taping, one of them began to spontaneously bleed from a cut that appeared in his right hand, halting the investigation. But not before the camera crew caught images of spirits on their cameras. In 2009, the Unexplained Mysteries investigation team investigated Sloss, and were shocked to capture spiritual spirits on film, and in 2012 the team from Ghost Adventures visited and were physically assaulted. This attack was caught on film. In 2014, the TV show Ghost Hunters visited Sloss Furnace and filmed quite a bit of footage that makes it difficult to deny the demonic spiritual activity at Sloss Furnaces, and have since returned to capture even more evidence. If you have interest in seeing the paranormal activity footage that has been obtained by various investigation teams, it can be viewed at the Sloss Furnace Paranormal Research Team at frightfurnace.com. There are several types of tours available should you feel brave enough to visit Sloss Furnaces.